The wedding album was lying open on Aunt Isolde's coffee table. The shiny photos caught the sunlight and sparkled, but my heart felt heavy. I stood frozen, my fingers tingling and numb as I stared at my brother Cale, smiling so brightly beside his new wife. Cale, the same brother whose wedding I was supposed to go to tomorrow. Amara, honey, I thought you knew, Aunt Isolde said behind me. Her voice was soft, shaky, and full of something worse than sadness. It sounded like guilt. I held a small crystal frame in my hands. It had a picture of my family in it, and I had been planning to give it as a gift at the wedding. But my fingers were shaking so much that the frame slipped, fell, and shattered on the wooden floor. The glass broke into tiny pieces, making a loud sound that echoed through the room, just like the ache in my heart. Bits of glass were everywhere, catching the sunlight that poured in through the big windows. "That's not possible," I whispered, my voice sounding strange, far away from me. "I have the invitation right here." I dug through my purse and pulled out the thick cream-colored envelope with my name written in fancy letters. My heart still hoped, maybe just a little. "Look, June 15th tomorrow," I said. Aunt Isolde took the envelope with trembling hands. Her reading glasses slid to the tip of her nose. "Oh, Amara," she said, her voice breaking. "The wedding was last weekend. They sent you the wrong date on purpose." The room felt like it was spinning. My whole body felt strange. I had taken a day off work to get ready. I had spent weeks looking for the perfect gift, searching for the right dress, and even practicing what I would say to family members who barely noticed me. How could they be so cruel? "Why would they do this, Aunt Isolde?" I asked, my voice small but shaking with anger and hurt. She hesitated. Then she straightened her shoulders. "They decided it would be easier if you weren't there." The memory of getting that envelope came back. I stood by my mailbox, sunlight catching the gold letters of my name. My heart had fluttered with hope. Maybe this time they wanted me there. Maybe they finally cared about me. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and join the awesome community. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from. I remembered the family dinner 2 months ago when Cale announced his engagement. He looked around the room at everyone except me. Still, I smiled, said congratulations, and tried not to show my hurt. That weekend, I went to 3 different stores searching for the perfect dress. I wanted something pretty but not too fancy, something that would show I belonged with them. The saleswoman had told me I looked happy and glowing in the mirror. My heart felt light with hope. Now I knelt on the floor, picking up the broken crystal pieces. When Aunt Isolde moved to help me, I shook my head. "Let me," I said. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. They had always treated me like I didn't matter. Now they have made it official. I decided not to make excuses for them anymore. Something inside me changed, like a big weight finally being lifted after years of being stuck. I stood taller and looked at Aunt Isolde, who had tears in her eyes. "I tried to help your mother see what was right, Amara," she said. "I told her it was wrong and mean, but she didn't listen. She said you just ask too many questions and make things uncomfortable." I almost laughed. Uncomfortable questions? Like all the money I quietly spent to keep the family lake cottage from being lost? Or asking why Cale's mistakes are forgiven but my hard work is ignored? I had spent years trying to be noticed in my family. I wrapped the broken crystal pieces in the colorful gift paper. The paper looked festive, but now it felt like a joke. "I thought if I worked hard and helped enough they would finally see me," I said. Aunt Isolde touched my hand gently. "Some people just can't see what's right in front of them, Amara," she said. "It's not that they won't, they just can't." I realized that no matter what I did, they would never truly see me. I had been trying to earn something that should have been given freely. I looked at the wedding album again. All the smiling faces were celebrating without me. My absence was so complete that they didn't even need to remove me from the photos. They had chosen long ago that I didn't belong. Maybe it was time I made my own choice. And I would show my family who I really was. I would not be invisible anymore. The next day I drove to my parents' house. The steering wheel felt slick under my hands and my stomach was tight with nerves. Their big fancy house looked perfect from the outside. The neatly trimmed bushes, the shiny windows, the clean paint, all of it hid the secrets inside. I parked the car and stayed inside looking through the window. My parents were in the living room, surrounded by wedding photos. My mother's laugh floated through the open window. It was the same laugh I had tried to earn for years. My father leaned back in his leather chair, looking calm. Cale, my golden child brother, was holding a big wedding photo. he said loudly enough for me to hear. The best decision we made was making sure she wasn't there to ruin everything like always. I felt a wave of nausea rise in my chest. I gripped the door frame tightly. They kept laughing, flipping through the album pages, completely unaware of me. 3 minutes passed before my mother finally noticed me. Not a question. Not a greeting. Just noticing I was there. "The wedding was last weekend," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You sent me the wrong date on purpose." Cale didn't even look up. "I needed one perfect day without you," he said simply. "You've always disrupted our peace," Mother said, adjusting her pearl necklace like she always did when she was nervous. Father stayed silent, staring at his hands. His silence spoke more than words. I took another step into the room. They were sitting comfortably while I stood. The way we were positioned showed everything about our family. "I spent thousands of dollars on the lake cottage through my company," I said. "Did you think I wouldn't find out you were telling everyone it was still yours?" Mother waved her hand like it didn't matter. "That's what children do, they help their parents. It's your job." Cale smirked. "While you play with marketing spreadsheets, we have real careers. Dad built something real. What do you make besides money?" Their words made me see the truth I had been avoiding for years. To them, I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was just a tool, a wallet they could use. I looked in the big mirror over the fireplace. The woman looking back at me seemed smaller somehow. Her shoulders were slightly curved inward. Her head tilted forward like she was always apologizing. How long had this stranger been living in my body? "Let me remind you something," I said. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folder from my office. "I have proof of every dollar spent on that cottage, every repair, every tax bill. And most importantly, I am the only owner. Not co-owner, sole owner." I put the papers on the coffee table. "You signed over your half to my company 3 years ago when Cale needed money for his failing restaurant." Father finally looked up, confusion on his face. "You can try to fight me on it," I said, my voice growing stronger, "but the papers are very clear. Tamsin Quill, the family attorney, made sure of that." Mother's voice went higher. "Tamsin Quill? Our attorney?" "I've been my own attorney for 5 years, I corrected her. 15 minutes later, I walked back to my car. My hands were trembling, but my steps were steady. I wondered if I should immediately cut all financial help or slowly withdraw it to give them time to underwind. I wanted justice fast, but I didn't want to be as cold as they had been. I started the car. For the first time since getting that fake wedding invitation, I felt a kind of peace. Maybe the most important wedding wasn't Cale's. Maybe it was my own, marrying myself to the person I was meant to be. That same day, my phone buzzed again. Another cousin I hadn't spoken to in a long time was suddenly worried about me. "Amara, honey, we're worried about you," Uncle Lucien said. I pressed my fingers to my head. "Did she mention that they sent me a fake wedding invitation?" I asked. There was a long pause. "Well, maybe there's some misunderstanding," Uncle Lucien said. "No misunderstanding," I said. "They didn't want me there, so they made sure I couldn't be." Later, I opened my laptop. Cale had posted the wedding photos online. Everyone who mattered was there, smiling. And I wasn't. Then today's mail brought the last blow. A letter from my father, written on his business paper, demanding I return the lake cottage as if I had stolen it. Night after night, I lay awake with the photos spread on my bed. The happy faces stared back at me, laughing at my hope. Had I imagined good times that never really existed? The loneliness felt heavier now without the pretend family love. I thought about all the times I had tried to make myself smaller to fit in. All the times I had softened my voice, hid my feelings, smiled when I was hurt. All those years of trying to earn love that should have been given freely. Now I underowned something important. No matter how much I tried, no one in that family would ever truly see me. But that didn't matter anymore. I had spent my life giving them everything, and now it was time to give something to myself. I took a deep breath. I would not disappear anymore. I would be strong. I would be proud of who I was. I would show the world the woman I had been all along. The woman who worked hard, loved honestly, and deserved respect. I looked at the photos one last time. The smiles were fake to me now. They could keep their happiness without me. I had my own happiness to build. I closed the album gently and placed it back on the coffee table. My heart felt heavy but also lighter. A small, quiet strength settled in me, like the first warm rays of sun after a storm. For the first time, I knew I could live for myself. I didn't need their approval, their fake smiles, or their invitations. I had everything I needed inside me: my courage, my hard work, and my own dreams. And with that, I knew I could finally start my real life. Not for anyone else. Not to earn love or respect from those who would never give it. But for me. For the person I had always been meant to be. One very late night at 3 a.m. I found myself awake. The house was completely quiet, and the only light came from the little glow of my phone screen. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over my mother's number. I wondered if I was overreacting. Maybe one little, "I'm sorry," would fix everything. Maybe it would bring peace back to our family. But I wasn't sure whose peace it would really bring. Mine or theirs. Probably not mine. I sighed and put the phone down. I didn't want to call anyone. Instead, I opened my laptop and started writing down everything that had happened. Every single time I had paid for Cale's failed business. Every transfer I made to cover the taxes on the old cottage. Every loan I had given that was never paid back. One by one, I typed them into a big spreadsheet. Each line felt like a brick I was stacking. Not a brick for building a house, but a brick to build a wall between me and my family. A wall that would protect me. Tuesday afternoon, someone knocked on my office door. I looked up. It was Aunt Isolde. She was holding 2 paper bags from my favorite deli. "Thought you might be skipping lunch?" she said with a smile. She placed a sandwich carefully on my desk. Then she rested her hand gently on my shoulder. The turquoise rings she always wore sparkled in the light. "I'm proud of you for oranding up. It's about time someone in this family had courage." Her simple touch nearly made me cry. But before I could say anything, my assurance voice came over the intercom. "Miss Liss, your parents are in the lobby. They don't have an appointment." Aunt Isolde squeezed my shoulder. "Do you want me to stay?" she asked softly. I straightened my back and shook my head. "No. I can handle this myself." When my parents walked into my office, my mother immediately started crying. Her mascara stayed perfect, not a single streak. "How could you abandon your family? We've always been there for you," she said, her voice trembling. My father stood stiffly beside her, looking serious. "The cottage has been in our family for generations. You have no right to do this." I stayed seated in my chair behind my desk. I didn't jump up like I used to when they entered the room. I didn't feel scared anymore. "That cottage hasn't been in our family for years," I said, my voice calmer than I expected. "You sold your half to my company when you needed money for Cale's failed business venture." Mom froze, her tears stopping for a moment. "We did no such thing," she said, her voice raising slightly. I pulled out a document from my desk drawer. I held it up for them to see. "Your signature's right here, Mom. April 2018. That's when Cale's restaurant went under and you needed money." Dad took a step forward. "We assumed once things turned around you would give it back," he said. I shook my head. "You assumed I would give it back without telling you about the legal transfer. Or maybe you assumed I would keep paying for the family while being excluded from it. I'm not your bank. I'm not your safety net. I'm done." For the first time in my life, my mother looked at me with fear, not disappointment. It felt strange but powerful. I had made myself clear. The intercom buzzed. "Miss Liss, Tamsin Quill is here for your 2 o'clock meeting," my assurance said. Perfect timing. Tamsin Quill, my lawyer, walked in carrying her big black briefcase. She had a confident, serious presence. "Mr. and Mrs. Liss, I believe our meeting was concluded," she said, pointing toward the door with her hand. Mom hissed, "This is family business." "That's exactly why Miss Quill, my lawyer, is handling it," I said. "All communication will go through her office from now on." The contrast was clear. Tamsin was polite, professional, and calm. Mom glared and seethed with anger. Tamsin escorted them out. Dad looked back once, his usual confident look replaced by confusion. Once they were gone, Tamsin handed me a stack of documents. "Ready to make this official?" she asked. I nodded. I picked up the papers and started signing them one by one. Each signature made my voice feel stronger and my hands steadier. The final paper was a legal notice giving my parents 30 days to vacate the cottage. Signing it felt like declaring my independence. "Your mother's signature on the sale document is completely valid," Tamsin said. "They have no legal reason to fight it." I signed the last document. My phone lit up with a call from Cale, the first time he had tried to contact me in years. I watched the phone ring. I didn't answer. Some calls don't deserve an answer. The next day I went to Alaric Thorne's office. His polished mahogany desk was covered with papers like battle plans. I signed each one with careful attention. Joint accounts closed. Loans transferred. Investment portfolios separated. Alaric ticked items off his list, speaking with the calm voice of a man who had seen many family fortunes rise and fall. Perfect timing, he said. According to their schedule, your parents should be halfway through their country club lunch by now. I glanced at my watch. 12:37. Mom would probably be ordering her second gin and tonic. Dad would be nodding politely at some retired executive who cornered him for a story. Their routine had become my secret advantage. What about the restraining order? I asked, sliding the last form across his desk. Alaric adjusted his glasses. Judge Harriman will review it this afternoon. Your documentation is thorough. There is a clear pattern of harassment at your workplace. Unannounced visits, shouting in the lobby, whispering to coworkers. We have a strong case. I felt my fists curl under the desk. Families can destroy people, I thought. Amara Alaric snapped her leather briefcase closed with a decisive sound. You're making the right choice, she said. Her certainty steadied something in me that had been trembling for days. My phone rang again, but this time it was an unfamiliar number. Amara, it's Vespera, Cale's wife, said the voice on the phone. She sounded nervous. I'm outside your building. I closed my eyes and braced myself. I saw everything, she continued. The way he acted in your lobby, I had no idea he could be like that. He said you refused to help with the wedding, that you were jealous. But that wasn't true, was it? You didn't even know when it was happening. I should have questioned it. I looked out the window and saw her oranding near the fountain. Her shoulders were hunched against the spring breeze. The sunlight reflected off the diamond on her ring finger. 3 weeks married and she was already beginning to see the truth. I wondered if she could become an ally, someone who might understand what had really happened. Or was this just another trap? I wasn't sure yet. Later that afternoon, Aunt Isolde arrived at my office carrying a worn leather briefcase I had never seen before. I've been keeping these for years, she said. She laid out folders full of printouts, emails, text messages, and financial records dating back a decade. Your mother never believed in deleting anything. She thought she might need leverage someday. I flipped through the pages. Messages about needing money for Cale's business. Notes about hiding the cottage's problems. Lies about repairs. Every message hit me like a heavy blow. Tamsin came in while I was going through the second folder. She scanned the documents and her expression hardened. This strengthens our case for the cottage, she said, picking out important emails. The judge will see a clear pattern here. Alaric returned with confirmation that my accounts had extra security measures. No one would be able to access anything, even with all the information they already had about me. The following morning, Tamsin called with news that made me sit down in my kitchen. The judge had granted the restraining order. He said there was a clear pattern of emotional and financial harassment. My parents couldn't come within 500 feet of my workplace or my home. Later, Aunt Isolde called with more news. Your cousin Arden canceled her bridge game with your mom, she said. She said she couldn't face her after what she did to you. One by one, the dominoes began to fall. Uncle Bastian removed them from holiday plans. Grandmother's oldest friends refused their dinner invitations. Rumors spread, and Cale started drinking more as his financial stability disappeared, with Vesper moving back to her parents' house. Finally, the eviction notice for the cottage arrived at my parents' house. The reality of what they had done, and what they had lost, finally sank in. I ran my finger over the embossed letterhead of my company. The cottage they still believed was theirs had actually been mine for 3 years. The truth revealed itself, one document at a time. A week later, on Wednesday morning, the sunlight in the polished granite lobby of my office building felt different. I had walked through these doors hundreds of times, but never like this. Security guards and my assailant Cale exchanged knowing glances as my parents walked in, Eamon Lyric between them, Bible clutched tightly like a shield. Their faces showed careful study and contrition. Mother's camel hair coat hung slightly off her shoulders, and her usually perfect hair had a few strands out of place. Father's posture was hunched forward, a position I had never seen before. Eamon Lyric extended his hand gently, speaking with his calm, soft voice. Your parents thought having someone neutral might help. But I didn't take his hand. There was nothing neutral about someone who had been at our family Christmas dinner table for 20 years. I stayed oranding behind my desk, strong and steady, ready to face the people who had caused me so much pain. Eamon mother steps forward, her voice shaking a little. We've been praying about this, Amara, about your behavior lately. I laugh quietly, a soft sound that surprises even me. Pie behavior? I ask, my voice small but a little bitter. The cottage has been in our family for many years. It is old and strong, made by my grandfather with his own hands. He built it for our family to enjoy for generations. I remember stories about him, about how he worked hard to make something beautiful for us. Father finally speaks. His usual loud and commanding voice is softer now, almost unsure. Your grandfather built it with his own hands, he says. Eamon Lyric steps closer and places a gentle hand on my arm. His touch is calm and kind. Forgiveness is important, Amara. They are still your parents. Some bonds are stronger than disagreements. Disagreements. I repeat, feeling my face grow hot. Is that what you call deliberate meanness? Is that how we are supposed to call all the hurt and lies? Mother whispers, glancing around the lobby as if people from church might suddenly appear from behind the potted plants. Think about what the church people will say, she says softly. Families shouldn't show their problems in public. The Thornton girl had a similar problem with her parents. Everyone is talking. I straighten my back and take a deep breath. I feel a strange lightness in my chest, like a balloon rising inside me. I've been promoted to Creative Strategy Director, Eamon, I say. Did they tell you that when they asked you to come? Or that my team just landed the Richardson account? The Eamon blinks, clearly surprised. That's wonderful news, Amara. Congratulations, he says, trying to find the right words. I take 2 envelopes from my leather folder and place them side by side on the reception desk. This is the wedding invitation for Cale that I received, I say. And this is the real one that Aunt Isolde showed me afterward. Eamon Lyric looks confused as he sees the different dates. His eyebrows furrow. They sent you the wrong date on purpose so you wouldn't attend your own brother's wedding, I say calmly but firmly. This wasn't a mistake. It was on purpose. They left me out. They wanted me to miss it. Sometimes families make hard choices to keep peace, Eamon Lyric begins, but I stop him immediately. I've spent my whole life forgiving Eamon. I've turned the other cheek so many times I feel dizzy. Now I want to live my life, I say. The words feel strong and real. I look straight into his eyes. Did they tell you about the lake cottage? How I've been making the payments for 8 years while they pretended it was still theirs? Or how they needed money every time Cale started a new business venture? Or perhaps they mentioned how they forgot to invite me to Thanksgiving dinner 3 years in a row but called me when their roof needed fixing. Eamon Lyric looks unsure, glancing at my parents. His eyes shift between them, confused and uncertain. Amara, after all we've sacrificed for you, Mother begins, her voice shaking and tears forming in the corners of her eyes. I turn to face her fully, oranding taller than I ever have in front of them. Name one sacrifice you made for me that wasn't actually for Cale, I say, my voice steady. There is silence. The silence stretches, heavy and long. It is their answer. I pick up a manila envelope from the desk and hand it to my father. These are all the family photos I kept, I say. The ones where you cropped me halfway out or where I'm oranding slightly apart. I kept them thinking someday I'd feel like I belonged in those pictures. Father takes it automatically, his fingers trembling slightly. I watch his hands. He looks like a man who isn't sure what to do with the evidence of his own mistakes. I am freeing myself from the duty of being your daughter, I say, feeling a rush of relief as I say it aloud. You don't have to pretend I matter to you anymore. You are free from trying to love someone you have always treated unfairly. You can't just stop being family, Mother says, her voice rising. After all we've sacrificed for you. You already said that, I answered calmly, still looking her in the eyes. I wait. There is no answer. Oren, my security guard, steps forward quietly, his presence a gentle reminder that this confrontation has witnesses. Everything okay here, Miss Liss? He asks politely. Yes, Oren. My visitors are leaving now, I reply. This isn't over, Amara, Father says, clutching the envelope of photos as if it is a lifeline. Actually, it is, I say. I turn toward the elevator banks. Oren will show you out. I don't look back as the elevator doors close behind them. The sound of their protests fades away, leaving me with an unexpected lightness in my chest. It is as if a heavy backpack I've carried for decades has finally been lifted off my shoulders. 2 weeks later, Aunt Isolde calls to tell me that Cale has lost his job. His marriage is already showing cracks because of money problems. I feel nothing but deodorant pity, like watching strangers through a rain-streaked window. I do not feel joy nor anger. Only a quiet sense of observation. Next Tuesday, the first letter arrives at my office. The envelope bears my father's distinctive handwriting, the precise capitals with flourished edges. I place it on my desk beside my coffee and study it. I traced the edge of the seal, but I have not opened it yet. Inside could be more manipulation, more guilt, more demands disguised as family obligation. Or maybe it could be something different entirely. I have not decided whether to open it yet. And that decision, the simple act of choosing, is the most valuable thing I have gained. A year later, the morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my lake house office, casting golden patterns across the shiny hardwood floor. My photographs line the walls. Landscapes I captured during weekend trips when I stopped waiting for invitations that never came. There are no family portraits here, just moments that belong solely to me. The phone rings. For the first time in years, my shoulders do not tense. Amara Liss, I answer, tucking the phone between my ear and shoulder while I arrange presentation notes. It is a potential client interested in my boutique marketing approach. As I explain my philosophy about authentic brand storytelling, I notice the wall calendar behind my desk. Where family obligations once dominated, birthdays I celebrated alone, and holidays where I arrived bearing gifts but left bearing wounds, now personal milestones stretch across the months. Half marathon in August. Photography workshop in September. A week in Montana just because I've always wanted to see big sky country. When the call ends, I lean back in my chair and breathe deeply. The cottage that once symbolized my family's control over me has become my sanctuary. The mail arrives with its usual shuffle through the brass slot. Among the business correspondence sits a thick cream envelope, my name written in flowing calligraphy. My heart skips a beat as I study it. Another wedding invitation, this time for my cousin Rachel. I run my finger along the embossed edge, remembering how a similar envelope once carried bitter disappointment. The date looks correct. The RSVP card includes a handwritten note. It wouldn't be the same without you, Amara. Please come for a moment. I pause and think about what is expected, what the old Amara would have done. Drop everything. Find a perfect gift. Prepare answers to intrusive questions about my single status and childless life. Said I check my calendar. The wedding falls during my photography retreat in Maine. I select a response card from my desk drawer and write a genuine note explaining my absence and wishing them joy. I will send a thoughtfully selected gift not to earn approval, but because giving brings me pleasure when it is freely chosen. That evening, Aunt Isolde arrives first for our dinner, bringing her famous apple crumble. Alaric appears with a bottle of wine he has been saving for a special occasion. Tamsin rushes in last, apologizing for the court running late, her laugh filling my kitchen. 1 year, Alaric says, raising his glass once we are seated around my dining table. 1 year of boundaries that would make a fortress jealous, of finding family and friendship. Aunt Isolde adds, her eyes crinkling at the corners with warmth and strength, and the courage to start over. We clink glasses and laughter bubbles up from somewhere deep inside me. Fenric but genuine. Later, after they have gone, I sit at my desk and open my father's latest letter. Unlike his early correspondence, filled with guilt and demands, this one acknowledges harm without seeking absolution. I failed you, he writes simply. You deserved better. I place the letter in a wooden box with the others. I do not display it proudly, nor do I destroy it in anger. I just acknowledge it as part of a story I no longer need to rewrite. Beside me sits a brochure for a mentoring program helping young women navigate early career challenges. My travel itinerary for Portugal, a solo journey I have dreamed about since college, rests beneath it. Both represent futures built on my terms. As I close the box of letters, I wonder if healing means reconciliation or simply peace with the past. Is family defined by blood or by those who treat your heart with care? Some bridges burn for a reason while others can be rebuilt stronger than before. What would you choose?